Yep, we're in. Cool. So just wait until some people get in here and do a quick sound test. So what are we talking about today, Chris?
We're talking about getting bare rooted.
And what's bare rooted?
Bare rooted, well, bare rooted is when plants are grown in the field and they're dug from the field, the soil shaken off them, and normally they're packaged up so that the roots don't dehydrate, and then they're sold and shipped all over the place for people to plant in their garden.
Okay, cool. Rightio. And what's the benefit of bare roots?
Well, some things grow better from bare root than they do from pots. But most of all, the main advantages are economic economic and also transportation, which is also can be economic. Like for instance, if you bought 10 6-foot mop tops, for instance, in summertime in large pots, they'd cost 2 or 3 times as much to buy, and they would be much harder to transport. You might need a big utility or something like that, whereas you could carry a bundle of 10 6-foot mop tops on your shoulder, or maybe 2 bundles of 5 or something like that on your shoulder, and you could throw them in the back of the station wagon without any trouble, and they'd be light and easy to handle. So say you live up in Shepparton or Bendigo or somewhere like that, and you wanted 10 good-sized trees, you'll start to transport them. You'll pay. Well, typically in winter time you might pay $70 for a 6-foot bare rooted mop top that's well established with a nice thick trunk and a nice bushy head, and that same tree at your local nursery might cost you $200 to $300 in a big pot in summer. And the reason for that is that
just before we continue, Chris, can I get a wave or an emoji in the chat from everyone if you can hear us?
Hello.
Just to make sure that you can hear us, drop us an emoji in the chat before we continue. Yep, maybe drop us a like and let us know that you can hear us. Cannot hear him. Okay, that's not good. Okay. Alrighty, we might drop the mics on this one. Thank you, guys. We'll just try and fix that now before we continue. It's that one. Yeah. Take that one.
Right.
Yeah, and pass me that. Yeah, pass me that one. Charge this up. Alrighty, just so that we have better audio, I'm going to switch these over. Yep, just put it back where it was, Chris. Let us know if you can hear us now, guys.
Hello.
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 Drop us an emoji, guys. Let us know if you can hear us. Yep, got a like. I'm guessing that's a good sign. Yep, talk, Chris.
Okay, so I'll start again talking about bare rooted. Hoping everyone can hear me now. Let me know if you can't.
Yep, drop an emoji if you can.
Yeah. So bare rooted is when plants are grown in the field, dug from the field, and then the dirt's shaken off the roots, and then they are packaged up and sold or transported and sold. And many of the plants that get bare rooted go to nurseries who then pot them and sell them throughout the year. But also some nurseries, such as our own, specialise in selling bare rooted in the winter. And that gives people access to healthy big plants really, really cheap. And there's really big savings. Like at the moment, a 5 to 6 foot silver birch is $69 in our store in a 12-inch pot, and that's considered a really, really keen price. But come Saturday when I start the bare rooted sale, you'll be able to buy a 6-foot silver birch for $19.99, and that'll be a bare rooted silver birch. So you're not paying for the pot, you're not paying for the potting mix, you're not paying for the labour of doing it, and then that'll be wrapped up in a bit of plastic and some moist potting mix, and you take it home, you plant it, and you find it, as long as you do it all properly, it'll take off and grow like crazy, and you'll have saved $50 and got yourself a nice big silver birch. So and that's the economic benefit, and there's other benefits too. Like, for instance, we'll be putting a couple of thousand roses up for sale this weekend, and where I don't have room in the store for 2,000 potted roses, and the potted roses are quite a bit dearer. They could be up to $50 each for a 3-foot standard rose. The potted roses are quite a bit dearer. The 3-foot standard roses are $29.99, and I'll have several thousand there for customers to choose. And the problem you find with roses, you go down to your local nursery and you want 10 gold bunnies or 5 blue moons or 3 Mr. Lincolns or something like that, and you find that they've only got one of this and one of that, and you have to go from nursery to nursery, and then the roses are slightly different sizes. But we'll have them here this weekend. They'll all be from the one grower. They'll all be exactly the same height for the graft, all fabulous quality, field growing stock, and you'll be able to come in and say, look, give me 10 of them yellow ones, or give me 5 of them red ones, or give me 20 of the white ones, and you'll be able to plant up big plantations and rows of them. And not only that, you'll be able to, because they're bare rooted, you'll be able to transport them easily. Like, for instance, 20 roses is just 20 standard roses is just a nice big armful that'll fit in the boot of your car, whereas 20 potted roses, you might have to hire a van or a trailer or get a delivery or something like that. So you can come in, and this is the advantage of bare root. You can come in, we'll have thousands of them in stock. You can buy 5 or 10, all matching, all the one size, and you can't really, if you want to do a big rose planting, for instance, you can't do that at any other time of the year. Now, let's go into the history of bare rooting so that you can understand why you have these economic benefits. And basically, before there were pots, man was growing different fruit trees and different plants and things like that, and he would dig them up and move them from the seedling bed or the cutting bed where he struck them, and he'd take them and he would move them out to the orchard or the place where he'd grow them on, or he'd dig them up and he'd give them to his friend or trade them or whatever. And that's been going back thousands of years. I remember I went to China before China really opened up, studying forestry, and I was there in the winter, and people were going past, on the highway with bicycles with big bundles of bare-rooted plants, and they'd be traveling from one village to another, trading different fruit trees and different plants that they could plant into forestry and things like that. And the plants were completely naked. They'd just been dug up, and they were just traveling from village to village. And so now today there are big advantages. Like, for instance, a large pot like this, a large plastic pot like this, costs $4 from the manufacturer, and to fill it with potting mix costs another $4. And so if you're buying a potted plant, there's $8. If you're buying a nice big potted plant, there's $8 worth of potting mix and plastic that you don't really need once you plant it in your garden. There's $8 there. Now, by the time that goes to a store and gets margined up and everything like that, it means a plant in a big pot might cost $100, might cost $150, might cost $200. But whereas when it's bare rooted, I gave the example of the birch, and for instance, 6-foot cherries, I think we were checking in Bunnings the other day, they're over $200 for a 6-foot cherry. We'll have 6-foot cherries here this weekend, bare rooted, and they'll be $69.99 because you're not paying for the pot, you're not paying for the potting mix, and you're not paying the GST and the margins and everything that happen when those pots pass from the grower to the retailer. So a person buying a 6-foot weeping cherry this winter might save almost $200 against buying it, say, in Bunnings, even now in a pot. So the savings are really big now, and why that occurs is that I was brought up in a nursery that grew. It's called in-field growing, where plants are grown in rows in the field. And what happens is that one person can look after somewhere between 100 and 300,000 plants by themselves in the field, because you don't have the difficulties of potted plants. Potted plants, you know, it's hard to get your hand in to weed them. You can use machinery, like having the plants in rows in a field, you can use machinery to do a lot of the functions. And one person by themselves can easily look after 100,000 to 300,000 plants. So the cost of producing a plant from seed, or and when you plant your 1 to 300,000 plants, you might have some extra labor. And when you harvest them in the winter, you might bring in some extra labor. But most of the year, there'll be just one person, one wage, looking after 100 to 300,000 plants, and that is big savings. And then those plants, if they're dug and sold without a pot and potting mix, also there's massive savings for the customer. And as long as they're handled properly, they'll grow. And so that's the economics of
Bare root?
infield growing. Yeah,
Okay.
bare rooted, because you're paying there's less labor cost in the production, and then you're not paying for the pot and the potting mix, and you're not paying for the GST and the margining that occurs as the $8 for the pot and the potting mix plus GST plus the retail margin occurs, plus the cost of looking after it for a year in a pot. All of those things can add up to a good sized plant costing $150 to $200, and in winter you can get that same sort of thing somewhere between $50 and $90 depending on what sort of variety it is. So on bigger plants there's a good $100 saving to be made on most bigger plants, and on medium to smaller plants there's $20, $40, $50 worth of savings to be made on each plant.
That makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, massive difference. And then there's other savings, like if you need to move, like for instance, if you need to move 20 standard roses, you're not going to, if they're in pots, you're going to pay a lot more money, but they're also hard to move. But 20 standard roses will fit into the boot of a medium car, into the back of a station wagon, and 5 or 10 bare rooted trees will easily fit into the back of your station wagon or your 4-wheel drive, and with the dog and plenty of other stuff as well, and you know, you can take them to your country property. So there's convenience, and also the plants that are bare rooted are dormant. So at that time of year, where say I wanted to ship some roses to Armidale in New South Wales, or I wanted to ship some mop tops into Sydney, in summertime it's a bit of a nerve-wracking thing because they're growing in a pot. It's a hot day, nobody waters them, they can shrivel up. But in wintertime the plants are asleep, and I've put plants on. I remember years ago when we used to send stuff on the train. I've put plants on a train and it's got lost, and then a few months later, they've turned up, and the railways have sent them back to me, and they would have been in transit for 2 or 3 months, and instead of being dead, we had them packaged up with moist potting mix around the base and plastic and everything like that. Instead of being dead, they were started to shoot, and I was able to plant them out and salvage them. So your dormant bare rooted plant can travel. It can be roughed up a lot more than what so you can put it on a truck out to central New South Wales. You can put lots of them into a van, so they're very very transport. So there's economics and convenience involved with your bare rooted plant.
Okay.
And then what is what gets bare rooted? The things that you find that are bare rooted in the winter are English box. And this weekend, at the moment, we're selling a size that's just a little bit smaller than the 10-inch pot. Now, currently, 10-inch pots here are $50 each. But we're selling something bigger than an 8-inch pot, and the 8-inch pots are $19.90, and it's bigger than your 8-inch pot, and it's smaller than your 10-inch pot, and we're retailing it for $10. So, and what I recommend is if you're making an English box hedge, you plant 5 per metre. So if you planted 5 of these English boxes to a metre, it'll cost you $50 for a metre of English box, and that'll be instant hedging. It'll be 40 centimetres high. That'll be that high. So it'll be that high. You plant it, give it a trim, and instant English box hedge, no waiting for years. And that's your advantage of bare rooted. And if you've got a station wagon, you'll fit 50 of those, 100 of those, whatever you want in the back of your station wagon, because there's no pots and no potting mix. So you're not paying for pots and potting mix. And as long as you put into a well-drained, good, healthy soil, they'll just take off and grow like crazy in springtime. So English box is another popular plant for bare rooting. Your fruit trees haven't started yet, but we'll have fruit trees in here in another few weeks. your ornamental pears. This weekend, like for instance, it's been about a 12-inch pot ornamental pear, about 5 to 6 foot, has been retailing around the $100 mark. And this weekend, I can sell that size for $50 in bare rooted. Good, really lovely, solid, thick trunks, good, strong roots, beautiful, thick, sort of thicker and stronger, because plants in the field tend to grow a bit thicker and stronger because they get more air and more sunshine and everything like that, whereas the potted ones are squashed up a bit. So really thick, strong plants, good sizes. But say in the ornamental pears, where you'd be paying $100, I was just doing a quote for a customer before, and I realized I could use the bare rooted instead of the 12-inch pot, which is $100. I could use the bare rooted for $49.99. So there's a $50 saving, and a beautiful, strong, healthy tree to boot. That you can get if you're swinging. So your ornamental pears, a lot of your maples, a lot of your weeping trees, weeping birches, all of those things are the sort of thing that you find bare rooted. And then things like strawberry runners and raspberries and that, we haven't got all of that in yet. Like, we're starting off the bare rooted season. We've got to start off small and work our way up. We're starting off this weekend with roses, English box, weeping cherries, silver birches, and ornamental pears. And so that'll be the start of the season. That really covers a lot of people's bare rooted needs, from this weekend. But then every week for the next couple of months, I'll be adding new, interesting bare rooted lines, and you'll find winter time. It's a time when me as a nurseryman, I pick up some fabulous bargains in the bare root, and I pot them on and have, it gives me some of my really interesting stock for the whole season. But it's also a time that if you're on the ball, you watch our website, you stay in communication with us, you'll get fabulous bargains, and you'll be able to fill up your garden really cheap through the bare rooted season. And when you hear my ads and I'm saying get bare rooted, you'll know what I'm talking about. So that's it. So has anybody got any questions about getting bare rooted?
Well, we did have one question here. Instigate Love asked, aerating shoes are not working on hard soil. Do you recommend anything else?
You can't beat a fork, just a garden fork. And in moist times like this, actually my partner's about to do our back lawn with the fork, and really you can't beat. And my dad was a lawn fanatic. He owned several properties and owned, at times I think he had 10 or 15 acres of lawn, and he used to love aerating the lawn with the garden fork. And when the ground's moist as it is now, you find you can press that fork in easily. Just lean on it heavily with your foot and press it in all the way. Give it a little wobble and pull it out.
Okay. All right, that'll work wonders, eh?
Yeah.
All right. Hope that helps. Liz asked, so no fruit trees this weekend?
Not bare rooted. Plenty of potted ones. But fruit trees are still a few weeks away. A good range of fruit trees, probably 3 weeks away.
All right. So there you go, Liz. Couple weeks. Instigate Love said, moist. We haven't had a single drop in weeks in Brisbane.
Ah, right. So
maybe it needs a water and a fork.
Yeah, maybe irrigate and then use the fork.
Okay. No worries. Happy to help. Some people want to see the English box, but that's coming Saturday, right?
Yeah, it's coming Saturday. Yeah.
Okay. So you can see them. They'll be on our socials. So keep an eye out for that.
They'll be here Saturday morning.
No worries, Liz. Happy to help. Do you want to show off anything?
Yeah.
Chris?
Actually, what I could do right now is show you. This is the comparison here. This is a potted standard rose, and it hasn't got a price on it. But anyway, this one here has, and it is $49.99, which is your normal price for something like that. And there it is in the pot. And this is your bare rooted standard rose here. And you can see we keep it tucked into a bit of moist potting mix, and that's it. They're a lovely full root system, and easy. You can pick up 20 or 30 of these at a time.
Yeah.
And these are 20. We've got bare rooted standard roses, short ones, starting at $19.90 this weekend, and then we've got the 3-footers for $29.99. So that's what you get, and you'll find. And what's great about that is that if you want a 10 of one colour, this is the weekend to do it. Come in and get 10 of one color, or you want 20 or 50 or whatever, and you want to be able to chuck them in your boot and go home and plant them, this is the time. It's during that bare rooted season that you get big numbers at a good price.
Okay,
and
great.
big numbers of the one variety.
And what I like is that if you were to plant them now, you'd not only save, but by spring they'd all be sprouting, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's right. And these ones here, by November, these will be covered in flowers.
Yeah.
And looking fabulous.
Yeah, excellent. Because nothing really looks good at this time of year, does it?
No.
Because everyone's hacking roses and whatnot, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. The roses, it's not a time for buying beautiful flowering roses.
Okay.
Cool. But it's a time for getting ready to have beautiful flowering roses.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Instigate Love asks, if I can ask, I've been trying to grow poppies, but the poppy seeds seem to fail every year.
You've
They're
really
in
got.
Brisbane.
Yeah, I reckon that you've got to be into it early. I reckon end of January you should be sowing your seed, and look for good fresh seed. But sow your seed end of January, and then towards the end of summer when things are cooling off a bit, then you put your seed, sow it into a seed box, and then plant the seed into the garden, and you should do much better with it.
Cool.
And poppies are a great end of winter, early spring flower, but you have to get into the seed in midsummer.
Cool. Hope that helps. And Elam said, love your videos.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right. Anything else to show off, Chris?
Not really, no.
Okay. All right. If anyone has any questions, let us know, and we'll let you know before we leave. Somebody said Glen Martin. I'm not quite sure what Glen Martin means, but we'll get back to you in a second. And Neelam said favorite native grass.
I reckon my favourite is an Osprey cultivar called Little Jess, or I love Tanika and I love Little Jess. They're two very popular ones, and they're both really hardy and really attractive and really easy to look after. Some native grasses look to me like they should be brush cut and thrown away, but your Little Jess and your Tanika, they're popular, they're not uncommon, and they're fabulous. And also, the other day for the first time I was at McDonald's over in Altona, and I saw variegated Tanika, and I love it. But I've been having trouble finding a grower of variegated Tanika. And I want to start using it in my garden designs, and it's sort of soft and fluffy and moves a bit like Tanika, but it's got a lovely sort of silvery colour to it.
Cool. Thank you for the gift, Rose. Someone asked what happened to Mari. I think she retired, right?
Yeah, that's right. She's retired and taking it easy.
Cool. Happy to help, Anilam. Tane said Glen Martin. I'm not sure what they mean by that, but they want to elaborate. We'd be happy to help. If you guys have any more questions, let us know before we sign out. If you were to pick up any roses in bare root season, Chris, what ones would you choose? What's your favorite color?
I love Charles de Gaulle because it's a beautiful lavender color, and the fragrance is to die for. Fabulous,
okay.
Fabulous
One of the best,
fragrance.
right?
Yeah. So okay. I really like Charles de Gaulle, and I think I must like fragrant roses because I also really like Double Delight. It's a lovely mixture of sort of yellows, creams, whites, and bright red. Very unusual mix, but the smell is like a punch in the nose.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And did you grow up having those around at all, or is this something you discovered as you got older?
No, my mum used to grow roses, and but the varieties have changed a lot since. There's a few around like Mr. Lincoln and Peace, I remember from my childhood, but they're sort of more interesting and brighter colours around today than what there was when my mum was growing them when I was a kid.
Okay. And Neelam asks, do you have a least favourite plant, something you cringe when you see it?
Lomandra longifolia, very hardy plant, and you can grow it where almost nothing else will grow. But my joke about that is that people have it instead of landscaping. So it's the plant that you have instead of landscaping is Lomandra longifolia.
And why is that? Does it just cover areas?
It's big, it's gross, it's ugly, and it doesn't do anything wonderful, you know. Like whereas some of your other things, like your Little Jess and your Tanika variegated, are really beautiful, and they've got a shape and they've got something going on. So I guess cringing would be Lomandra longifolia, and you see it around petrol stations and things like that.
Okay.
And you sort of see that somebody's done a sort of a $200 landscape on a $1 million building.
It's the no effort plant, huh?
Yeah, it's what you have instead of landscaping.
Okay.
Just watch your face.
Thank you for the compliment, Instigate Love. Samantha asks, what are some good bare-rooted tree options for a cool climate, part shade?
Well, your Japanese maples. There's a whole range of Japanese maples, and they do really well in part shade. They're probably a lot of your deciduous trees love to be in the hot sun, but your Japanese maples will take shade. Forest pansies will take a fair bit of shade too, but a little bit hard to get bare root. But there'll be a few of those around in winter. Yeah.
All right, so we'll have Japanese maples eventually.
Yeah, lots of different Japanese maples.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's good. Hope that helps, Samantha. Instigate Love asks, what's the best shape to grow guava trees? A shape, Y shape, or just a bushy tree?
I think just a bushy tree. Yeah.
Okay. All right. There you go. Sophia, sorry if I butchered your name, but she said, love your videos. We have an ornamental Cleveland to help as a screen. Will they grow tall?
Yes, they're a good strong grower, and they'll easily do 7 or 8 meters.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, what would you say to someone that doesn't want one quite that tall? Could you chop it hard?
Yeah, they're a tree that loves it. Pear trees love to be trimmed, and you can cut them very, very hard.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right. No worries, Samantha. Someone asked, are you having many bare-rooted standard roses this weekend?
Yeah, we're going to have 2,500 of them here.
Wow, 2,500. And what's included in the 2,500?
Basically 2 foot and 3 foot, iceberg in 2 foot and 3 foot, and then colours, what we call colours, which is like, you know, and what we're doing is we to keep them all at one price. We're not doing the patented varieties. We're just doing the popular varieties, which don't carry the extra premium prices.
Okay.
And it'll be all your popular ones: Just Joey, Gold Bunny, Freesia, which is a yellow one, half a dozen different red ones, Pascal, which is a white one, Alina, which is a beautiful cream one. So I've got Just Joey, which is a beautiful fragrant orange one. So I've gone for just a nice range of the popular colours. We always sell out the ones that you sell out of first are the reds and the yellows, and so we've gone big on the reds and the yellows.
Okay. Oh, they said they'll be here this
weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Awesome. I think that's it for questions, guys. Unless you have one last one, we're gonna sign out. So, thank you for joining, and drop us a like before you leave. Anything else you want to touch on, Chris?
Well, I was just going to remind everybody, when you hear one of my ads this winter and I say, get bare rooted, you'll know what I'm talking about. And come and see me and I'll tell you to get bare rooted this winter, okay?
Cool. Thank you for the compliment. Ando asked, fruit tree bare roots. What are your tips?
Look,
just plant them, right?
Yeah, but the most important thing is it's very wet in winter, and you don't want to put and this doesn't really apply. This applies to all fruit trees, and to all bare rooted trees, pretty much, unless it's a willow tree. And actually, do you know that's one of the bare roots I'm going to have? I'm going to have
willows.
The fabulous. People should Google and have a look at this. Google. They're really hard to get, and they're really popular for the Hamptons Gardens. I had them specially grown for me. And that is the standard Nishiki willow. Beautiful thing, really just sort of come out of the blue, really in fashion, looks fabulous in a Hamptons garden. It has, in springtime, the foliage is white and pink. and I forgot, but I'm going to have 50 of those up for sale this weekend. They're $120 each.
Cool.
Now, if you're doing a Hampton Gardens, Google and have a look at the standard Nashiki willow. It's an amazingly pretty plant and very easy to grow. Now, say if you're planting a willow and you've got a boggy, and one of the reasons why I did it is some places are just too boggy for a weeping cherry or weeping maple or weeping birch.
Yeah.
And in those situations, I wanted to say, no, look, you don't plant a cherry there, plant a willow. But for everybody else and for almost all other bare-rooted trees, you've got to have them up. You've got to dig nice deep holes, mix a bit of potting mix in. Don't put fertilizer in because they're asleep. Like you wouldn't have a leg of lamb in the middle of the night. It's the same thing. These things are asleep. They don't want fertilizer at the moment. They just want nice loose soil, nice loose moist soil around them. But plant them up nice and high. Mound them up if you have to. But don't. The most important thing, and it applies fruit trees and all your other weepers, don't have the roots down in the water unless it's a willow tree, like your standard Nashiki willow.
Cool.
But all the rest of them, plant them nice and high, and so that they want to be in moist soil. They want to be moist, but they don't want to be immersed in water. And where you've got a really boggy spot, mound it right up and plant them above the water. Trees love to grow down and hit the water, but they don't want to be inserted into the water as a general rule.
Right. Okay.
So with your fruit trees, all of your fruit trees, mound them up, plant them high, don't have them down in the water.
Okay. If you guys want to see a good example of a Nashiki willow, we did a how to plant a tree series, and Chris plants one in that series.
Yeah.
And it's in like pink and white foliage, and it looks really good. So go have a look for that if you
or
want to see
Google standard weeping willow, and there's on Google Images on standard Nashiki willow, you'll see lots of beautiful images of them in pinks and whites. Then really a fabulous, unusual tree.
Cool. All right, one last question. Bootsy asks, how long do plants survive in pots from the nursery?
It depends what sort, and a lot of plants, like Japanese maples, I reckon a Japanese maple can stay in a pot for 100 years. And but you'd have to, the thing would be that you'd have to put it into bigger pots or trim the roots every few years. And the other thing that a lot of people sort of say, oh, the potting mix wears out and it doesn't work anymore. But what happens is that calcium, which seems to be one of the most essential elements for plant growth, calcium is water soluble. Like people go into those caves with the stalactites, and that's because the lime was dissolved in the water and drips down and sort of forms on those things. So calcium is water soluble, and so with all plants need calcium in various degrees, and the calcium will wash out of the pot. So if you top up the calcium in the pot, most plants will stay a long, long time in a pot as long as you're topping up the calcium and putting a bit of NPK in, which is like your Osmocote or your Dynamic Lifter or something like that. So you need Osmocote or Dynamic Lifter, but most of all you need to top up that calcium. And some plants won't even respond to say something like Osmocote unless they've got adequate calcium. The lack of calcium causes a blockage which stops them from getting the other nutrients. So the key to keeping most plants green and lush in pots, things like say like for instance, some people have on their balcony they'll put big ficuses there for a bit of privacy, and they'll turn yellow and mean and lose a lot of their leaves. And when they do that, you don't seem to be able to revive them with NPK, your Osmocote or water. But if you put a good dose of lime on and then follow it up with Osmocote and water and stuff like that, you'll find that it brings them back to life, and things can live for a long time in the pot, given adequate calcium, water, and NPK.
Cool. All right. They also said it's a lily pilly.
Right. Yeah. So
all good.
All of what I just said applies to that.
Cool. Awesome. Alrighty, guys. Well, we're out of here. Thank you for joining. And hello.
Yeah. Hello. Get bare rooted.
And bye-bye.